to Nigmi! We are Nigmi, the Science Girls! Where elements of science
have a completely deep meaning to it.
Just when you thought when science could be boring, we prove you wrong.
Today, we're going to be talking about how to make matches. We have the recipe from the book Like Water for Chocolate by Laura Esquivel.
These are the ingredients. 1 ounce potassium nitrate.
½ ounce medium.
1 gram phosphorus.
Saffron.
½ ounce powdered gum arabic.
Cardboard.
Potassium.
Now, you may be wondering, what is potassium?
In potassium, for every electron gained, a negative ion is formed. For every electron lost, a positive ion is formed.
Now, how can we relate that to our literature?
Well, it's actually quite simple, me. Tita relates to potassium because when something negative happens to her, something positive happens after, or the other way around. The negative charge of this chapter, titled June, is seen when Pedro and Rosario's baby, Roberto, dies. Tita is devastated by the death because she feels like the baby's mother. Therefore, this experience is very negative. But like potassium, when something negative happens, it's because something positive awaits. Tita's reaction to her nephew's death is followed by screaming and crying. Mama Elena assumes she's insane, so she calls Dr. John and orders him to take her doctor to an asylum. However, he disobeys, and he instead takes Tita to his house without telling Mama Elena, of course. This is a positive event caused by Roberto's death, because now Tita was free of the dictatorship of her mother. Therefore, as potassium's definition states, when something negative happens, something positive must follow it.
Next ingredient.
What is it?
½ ounce of medium. Ready? Okay.
Mimi? That's so rude. Maybe they don't know what that is.
Well, I'm sorry. I thought our audience would know it's a member of the spinal group of oxide minerals.
They'll be like, say what, girl?
It's just another word for red lead.
Ow. Now, how can we relate that to like water for chocolate?
Well, you see, red is the color that symbolizes bleeding. This is obvious because red is the color of blood. However, on a more serious note, red symbolizes Tita's metaphorical bleeding. She's bleeding because her heart is broken, and people bleed when they're in pain. Ouch. Pedro isn't hers to love, and Roberto has died. These two examples cause Tita's heart to gush blood out because she's in so much pain. Same way someone would be in pain if they were cut and bleeding. Therefore, we can conclude that Mimiam's redness serves as a symbol for Tita's internal bleeding or broken heart.
Why is Tita so devastated her nephew died?
Well, because she breastfed Roberto and treated him as a child of her own. She gained maternal instincts from him. And when she breastfed or took care of him, it allowed her to picture her life with Pedro and the baby as a married couple.
Oh.
What's next?
Phosphorus!
Define it!
Phosphorus is a reactive poisonous non-metallic element.
Connection to the book!
Dr. Brown gives Tita the phosphorus stick because he thought it would be a good way for Tita to start communicating with the world again, if only in writing. Page 118. Dr. Brown asks Tita to write down why she doesn't speak. She writes it down and doesn't know he's going to find out what it says because she, as silly as she is, isn't aware of one of the properties of phosphorus, that it's glow in the dark.
Phosphorus is a highly reactive and poisonous element. Which character does that sound like?
Mama Elena, of course. Tita maintains her calm with Mama Elena in order to not react to her or anger her, because if she does, she reacts badly and explosively due to her short temper. In the beginning of the novel, Tita narrates that Mama Elena liked being called Mommy, so all the daughters were to do so. When all the women of the house were working, Mama Elena said it was time to stop. They all rushed to stop and clean up. She was the dictator or ruler of the ranch. Tita calls her Mommy and follows her orders because of her mom's high reactivity and poison. The mom is poisonous because she harms characters by making them feel destroyed or unvalued. And the saddest thing was that she knew was what set off her explosions, but each time she had managed to light a match, it persistently had been blown out. As if reading her thoughts, John went on. That's why it's important to keep your distance from people who have frigid breath. Just their presence can put out the most intense fire, with results we're familiar with. If we stay a good distance away from those people, it is easier to protect ourselves from being extinguished. Page 116. This quote is told by Tita by Dr. Brown. It exemplifies that Tita has a lot of fire or good qualities. However, a person with a frigid or poisonous breath can make her feel bad about herself. What we mean by frigid breath is a frigid words that hurts others. Mama Elena had frigid breath, and she would put out Tita's fire. This is why Dr. Brown has taken Tita away from the ranch, so her good qualities remain, and she isn't extinguished.
And now we're going to be using saffron.
What's saffron?
Saffron comes from a plant and is known as an expensive spice. When dried, the stigma are dark red, but when added to food, they impart their distinctive reddish-yellow color.
What does that have to do with the chapter, though?
Well, Tita is symbolized by saffron. When she's left alone with not much to do, she's dried. Her nutrients are sucked out of her. But when saffron is added to food, it changes color. Same way when Tita is cooking food, she changes color. She becomes alive and feels like freedom because she can add whatever ingredients she wants. And she can control the food and her emotions. At Dr. John's house, she begins to understand the idea of freedom. A quote to prove this is found on page 109, talking about Tita. Now seeing her hands no longer at her mother's command, she didn't know what to ask them to do. She had never decided for herself before. This quote exemplifies that she doesn't know how to work without Mama's orders because she never got a chance to do what she wanted. What is the next ingredient?
Arabic gum. The definition of Arabic gum is that it's a natural emulsifier, which means that it can keep together substances that wouldn't mix well.
And that relates to the novel because...
Well, we've concluded that Mama Elena is represented by saffron and Tita by phosphorus. Therefore, when you combine two substances like saffron and phosphorus, or Mama Elena and Tita, you wouldn't get a pleasant combination. That's why the Arabic gum keeps the substances together. It soothes their joining. In this case, the Arabic gum symbolizes patience from Tita's side. Tita is very patient with her mother, the tyrant.
Like a pirate.
She follows her orders and rules and lives up to her expectations. This is strenuous. This is a strenuous job since her mother is a dictator and has a hard personality to work with. However, Tita puts up with it, thus being able to join both characters into not being explosive against each other.
Now let's go to the literary department.
Well, I'm very glad to see that you're very enthusiastic to hear from us.
We must add that if it weren't for us, you would not understand the theme of the story.
And that is...
Magic realism.
Define it!
Magic realism is defined as a literary or artistic genre in which realistic narrative or techniques are combined with surreal elements of dream or fantasy.
How does that relate to the novel?
Well, as you can see, there's a quote on page 113. Page 113. When Dr. Brown's grandfather was dying from excessive blood, when the Kickapoo heard the desperate screams coming from the house, she ran to see what was happening. As soon as she went to the sick man and placed one of her hands on his wounds, the bleeding stopped.
Obviously, this is magic realism because...
Since when have hands been scientifically proven to heal?
If you hadn't cut me off, I would have explained. The objective of magic realism is the stating of something in such an ordinary and colloquial language that the reader would assume that what's said would actually be happening. Meaning that the diction of this quote was not over-exaggerated and seemed realistic. However, if you really think about it, since when has a hand been able to heal a wound?
Well, we could have said so ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Then why did you call us?
Because me.
And don't forget, we're friendly.
Don't forget, Nigmi. Thank you for watching.
And keep watching us on the next How To. When something negative.
Wait, do awkward body positionings.
Okay. Value. And the saddest thing that we do it. Breath. Just breath. Just their presence can put them.
Forgot about that. Okay. No, you have to be like, "Defa-" Oh, that's mine.
So, since when have hands been silent?
Sorry. Oh, wait. We're gonna go again now.